Hey, this is Marlon from marlonmcpherson.com, and in this video I want to talk about managing your content and product ideas. As a content creator, I know that it can be quite a struggle to actually figure out what to publish, where to kind of host your ideas, and how to manage them. Typically what I would do is go ahead and jot my ideas down. I've got my note-taking app. I might use that on my phone or on the computer. I might have a piece of paper or a notebook somewhere that I jot whatever down. And yes, that's fine, but there isn't really any cohesiveness to that because I've got things all over the place. Though I do manage my actual content calendar and publishing and the actual creation of the content within my project management tool, i.e. I use Trello. I mean, you could also use Asana or whichever project management tool, or use Google Calendar for the actual scheduling or planning out of the schedule. But when it comes on to just the raw ideas, when you want to jot things down and actually have them all together and try and figure out what to use, then this system here that I've actually started to use is a much better way to approach it. I've created this workbook in Google Sheets, which has multiple sheets, and basically what it allows me to do is to get all the ideas out my head in one place. Even if I've jotted them down somewhere else, I will actually bring them across into this central spreadsheet here. And the great thing is I can just put whatever ideas, good, bad, ugly, and I can figure out by filtering them which content ideas are the best for me to bring forward, which is the best for me to actually use that's going to resonate with my audience. So I have this spreadsheet here. This is the first worksheet, which is the content planning worksheet. And what this does is here it has the column for me to list out all the ideas. I have categories. I can put them on the categories based on the type of contents, the various type of content that I produce. And I can then use a scoring system. So I have a maximum score of 15 total, but I have 3 columns that I can score up to 5 or out of 5. So the first column here is for the popularity. It's how much you can get out of doing that piece of content. Is it being searched for? Basically, is it searchable? Are people looking for it? And there are ways you can do this. You can do some very basic content research or topic research or keyword research. It's not the primary thing that I use to drive my content process, but it's really important to know that people are searching for this anyway. But if it's something that you're going to use or need in your business or want to have other people refer to, then it might still be a good idea to refer to actually use that content or produce that piece of content. So the next category is brand fit. Is it something that's related to what I'm doing? Is it connected with my target audience? Obviously, if it is, then it scores a high 5 or a high 4 or whatever it might be. If it's a totally completely different thing to what I'm actually about, what my brand is made up around, then I would score it low. So clearly it's not a brand fit. Feasibility. Is it something I can do now? Is it this big production? Let's say, because I do YouTube videos, for example, let's say there's a content idea, but it's going to require a big shoot, a team. It's going to need a big budget. It might not be something that I might be able to pull off right now. So then it's not feasible, even though it might be great for my audience and it might be popular. It's just not something that I'm able to do. So then that would score low there. When you score them on my sheet, I've got it set up where it actually totals up the score. And by the way, this sheet, you can go ahead and replicate everything that I'm showing you right now in Google Sheets. Or if you don't want to go through that hassle, you go ahead and check the description. I have a link that you can get the entire workbook, and you can start customizing that for your business, your content creation strategy, and start using it today. So check the link in the description. Now, if you have several ideas, the great thing is that you can go ahead and quickly see, I've got some conditional formatting here, which just says that if the total score, if the number in these cells are above 10, then it applies that green color to it. And I can visually quickly see, okay, which pieces of content actually, or which items in the list are actually a hit. So if I were to change this one, let's say to 5, then it should, well, let's do 4 here as well. Then clearly the goes up to 11, and you have that conditional formatting kicking in. Let me just backspace, sorry, undo that there, so we have the original numbers. Below here, what I've got is the publishing archive, and this is a way for me to actually capture all the old things that I've published in one place. So I could put the links to where the pieces of content lie or lay, and I could go ahead and quickly pull them up from here. I know you can go through and check your blog or your YouTube channel or your podcast listing to see what's been published, but the selling point for me here is that I have everything in one central location. So the next sheet is the audience, target audience worksheet, which is where I have 2 profiles setups here, and I recommend that you have 2 to 3, no more than 3 profiles for the type of person or people that you're targeting in your niche. So you could put your general target here just to say, okay, I'm targeting, for me, I'm targeting content creators and online business entrepreneurs, basically. So that's the general gist of it. But then to go into more detail, you want to make sure you understand who these people are in a real way. So you could do these profiles up from the top of your head and based on what you think they should be. But the real power comes in when you interact. For example, I do some consulting calls where I do them for free sometimes, and I can get into the heads of the people that are my ideal fit, and I can get to understand their story, what motivates them, what's the end result they're looking for, what's that desired future state. Normally when someone wants to do something, they want to solve a problem because of another thing. It's not because they want that particular thing they're coming to you for, but it's what it gets them, what it allows them after the fact, right? The ultimate thing that they want. So getting to understand these things will help you with copywriting. It helps you with actually crafting your messaging in a much better way, as well as the content. It all connects back together as one audience strategy. So you could go ahead and add the information in here as well. If you wanted to add some notes down here, you could do that as you speak to people and interview them, or even interact with people in various places like Facebook groups, etc. This is where you can learn about your audience. If you don't have an audience yet for you to kind of interact with, you can piggyback on other people's audience and be helpful in their communities online, so you can actually learn more about those people. So this next sheet here is the product planning sheet, and all it is basically the same principle as the content planning sheet. You list out all your ideas for products that you could potentially make that will resonate and will help your audience, and you look at basically how they stack up in terms of the customer value, not value in terms of necessarily monetary value, but what it means to that person. Is it a big enough struggle or problem for you to solve for them? Are they willing to actually spend money and go through whatever it takes to solve this problem? So the burning pain points, if it's a high value to them, then obviously it scores high. If it's a lower value thing, then it scores lower. Profitability, you need to look at your margins. Is it something that's feasible for you? Is it something that's going to make you a high enough profit margin for you to make it worth your while? Feasibility, can you pull that off? Is it something that you're going to require this big team to do and a big budget, or is it something you can do right now? So that is where you can score a high or a low feasibility score. And obviously the principle is the same. You look at the totals and you see what's ranked high in terms of scores, and you can decide to work on those. So for example, we have, for me, I do digital products primarily, so I don't have physical products, right? I could do an ebook, a course, or I could decide that I want to create an app. Obviously, an ebook is something that is digital. You can do a PDF ebook, or you can go a bit further and do like a Kindle format or something. But the idea here is that you can provide immense value in an ebook, so it could score quite high for the customer value. And profitability wise, it has higher margins. One is an e-product or a digital product. So there's no overheads as well. There are, but it's not the same as a physical product where you're holding stocks and having to manufacture things. So the margins are a lot higher. And the feasibility, I could create an ebook by myself from home. And if I want to go one step further, I could have somebody help me edit it and so on, or maybe design the graphics that go on the front of it. But if you can do all of those things yourself, you could pull that off without necessarily having too much of an issue. So therefore, it becomes a high feasibility score versus an app. An app is something that can take a lot of resources to actually get going, to actually start it to begin with, or plan and create this app, and then to market it and do all these other things. It can take a lot of ongoing work and investment. First of all, you might need a developer. Not might, you will, unless you're a developer yourself. You will need somebody to maybe do the interface, the graphic interface. You need somebody that might be able to manage other aspects of it. I really don't know about app creation, but I know it's not a simple thing to do. And it might cost you a lot of money. You might need investment or to raise that money to actually start building that. So it might not be feasible for you right now. So then you can see that that might be scoring high on the feasibility score there. So these are some like fairly real life examples that I've tried to do there. Now moving on to the content archive. The content archive is the same as what I showed you on the content planning sheet, but you could just have that as a separate sheet and put all your links here to your content, your previously published content. In terms of the research products, the idea behind this for me is to have any products that could be a competitor product, or it could be something that you could be influenced by from another industry that's done well, and you want to model maybe your product based on what you've seen them do successfully, and the things you want to see, the things that they're not doing that great as well. Identify any sort of gaps that you could fill with your product. And you could keep a list of these here that you could use within your research. So then it guides your process when it comes to creating your own products as well. Resources, I would put in here anything like social media groups, forums, meetups, or anything like that that you can use to research your audience. So these are places that you would go where your audience would hang out, even if it's not your audience directly, but other people have that audience already, and you want to just jump in and start helping out. So this is a good way to track those various places. And it also presents the opportunity for you to do some marketing eventually, officially, or you could just do it in a natural way where you give value and you get value back by helping. People is where you keep track of all the people that can help you with your operation and be maybe someone that can guide you through mentorship or anything like that. You want to keep track of those bits of information there. Of course, you can have that in your phone or in a separate location in your email, your contacts list. The point here is to have everything in one location. That's important to do your audience strategy, your content strategy, your product strategy, your overall audience strategy. Then the last thing I have in here is my content publishing checklist for my YouTube videos, as well as my podcast and video shows. So I've literally listed out the primary things that I do. So if you were to grab hold of the workbook, you will be able to see exactly how I do my YouTube post-shoot production, as well as the actual production of the podcast itself, the episodes and the video version of it, and how I actually go in between to make sure that they both get published, one using the audio and one using the video, but they're slightly different formats. So that might be helpful. So you could model that and see if that's something that could work for you as well. So obviously you can use the spreadsheet with the checklist as it is, or you can add that to your content management, not your content management, your project management tool. I do have these checklists already in Trello. That's where I manage things. I'm not going to show Trello in this video because purely you could use this alongside Google Calendar and just use maybe like a Word document or some other tool to flesh out the content, and you just schedule it inside your Google Calendar. But obviously having a project management tool makes it easier for you to see each step of the way exactly where you're at. And if you're collaborating with other people as well, that's where their superpower comes in. It's really good for collaborations, even though you can do that with Google Drive as well, with Google Docs, etc. It's not the same to visually see things. In Trello, you have the cards moving from one step to the next, and you can have multiple boards based on what you're working on. So that's what I use personally, but you can use Asana or any other project management tool of your choice. In here, if you get this template from me, you'll have some instructions on how to use it. So I hope this has been helpful. If you've got any questions, leave me a comment inside the video inside the comment section here on YouTube, or drop me a message over on marlonmcpherson.com.